They called him crazy, a madman chasing the wind, a dreamer who dared to defy the desert. But Newton Jibunoh wasn't just another man with a thirst for adventure. No, he was a man on a mission, a warrior armed with nothing but grit and an unshakable will. This is the story of how one man took on the Sahara not once, not twice, but 3 times. Because some battles are too important to be fought only once. Born in Nigeria, young Newton knew struggle. Often early, life didn't hand him silk sheets or golden spoons. It was just dust, sweat, and the resolve to carve his own destiny. He studied engineering, built a successful career. But somewhere deep inside, the core of the wild desert whispered his name, a core he couldn't ignore.
After I graduated in the UK, I had a job waiting for me in Nigeria. I needed to come back home. And then I asked myself that question that is here today. What next?
In 1966, Jibunoh did what few had ever dared. He climbed into his car and drove from London to Lagos through the bone-dry jaws of the Sahara. And guess what? He was alone. No GPS, no satellite phones, just a man, a machine, and the madness of a dream. Did he nearly die? Oh, more times than he would like to count. Did the desert try to break him? Absolutely. Did he make it? You bet he did. And that should have been enough, isn't it? That should have been the end of the story. But Newton Jibunoh was just getting started.
Begin to carry out a campaign that would stem or stop the encroachment of the Sahara Desert.
Jibunoh knew that the sands weren't just creeping. They were swallowing farmlands, destroying homes, pushing families into despair. So he picked up a new weapon: hope. With Fade Africa, he planted trees, built green walls against the encroaching doom, and stood before governments demanding action. He wasn't just fighting the desert anymore. He was fighting for the future.
It's all about the desert, but it's not limited to the desert. It also has to do with tackling all the other degradations and environmental problems that are associated with desert encroachment.
Most men wouldn't dare return, but Jibunoh, he knew the desert hasn't been conquered yet. And at 62, he went back. This time, he wasn't alone. With a convoy of young Africans, he led an expedition, not just to survive, but to teach, to show a new generation that the Sahara was not just a challenge, but a warning. Still, the sands whispered, "I am not done with you yet." At 70, most men sit back and count their victories. But Newton Jibunoh,
My second expedition, well, I wanted to have sufficient stories to tell.
he strapped in for one last ride across the Sahara. Not to prove anything, not for the thrill, but to remind the world that the desert doesn't sleep, and neither does Newton.
I would have gone away from the scene knowing fully well that the crusade that I started 40 years ago is now in the hands of young men and women that will now carry the torch to the next generation.
He has been called the desert warrior. But warriors fight battles. Jibunoh, he is waging a war against time, a war against indifference, a war for a greener, better world. If you listen closely, somewhere in the desert winds, his story is still being told.
I decided I was going to be part of that era.
This piece is put together by Idara Udoh for Ara Plus TV.
I couldn't think of any other way of becoming part of that exploration other than to drive my car, my old second-hand car, from London back to Nigeria.